What's up, everybody? One Fun Guy podcast in the studio tonight. It's a rare night, guys, that I go live during the week. I happen to be off work tomorrow, so I thought, why not just come live and say what's up, see what's happening during a weeknight. Me and Kelly, we go live on Thursday nights. I really kind of compress my time and energy and effort into him. We make do with what little time we have to do this. So it's just kind of awesome that we're on there when we can. So if you're on, say hey. If you like the show, that's awesome, guys. I'm just hanging out tonight. Probably get into a little bit of music, movies, wrestling. Obviously, politics is right around the corner. Tomorrow's the day, right? So by Wednesday, we'll know what is going to happen next. So I don't mind talking about it, when the season is, but I generally stay away from that. So I don't generally talk about politics or religion, but, it's kind of a big thing coming up. So, vote for what you guys feel is right and what's going to be best for you. But yeah, that's it. Who's on? Siri, what's up? Mark, what's up? If you guys are on, say hi. If you share the show, that'd be awesome, guys. That's really kind of what keeps me going here is the shares. If you guys can help out and hit me up into other people, that would be awesome. I'm just going to share this out into the universe here. Apparently, I have a person who has kind of taken my account over. Not account over, but they created one under my name, which is kind of weird and cool at the same time, I guess. Which is oddly strange, but flattering at the same time. So I'm going to share my show to them. See what they do, right? See what comes on, right? I don't know, that's the coolest thing I've seen in a while, right? Somebody basically created an account under my name as me, which obviously isn't me because I'm alive, but I shared the show to it, so that's kind of unique. Maybe I could take a screenshot of that, and see. It's kind of cool. Let me see if I can do this real quick here. Sorry, guys, don't mind me. I'm just I hope this works. I don't want to mess this up, but I hope this works. I don't want to mess this up, but hopefully that worked. This up, but hopefully that worked. I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. I tried to take a screenshot. I'm on my iPad, but it's the most bizarre thing because somebody created an account under me, but I got it nonetheless. If you guys are on, say hey. If you like the show, that's awesome, guys. Steph, what's going on? I know it's been a while. I'm just getting back into the swing of things, guys. Just trying to do a rare weekday show. Normally I don't. It's just happened to be tonight. I was off tomorrow, so I figured why not just see if I can do it. So I thought, why not try? So here I am. I don't know if that worked. Of course, now my phone is acting up. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up?
Hey,
What's happening, Steph?
nothing. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh my goodness, I look crazy, and my children are all of a sudden obnoxiously loud. They
Hey, it's
like
all right.
now all of a sudden they're like making animal noises from the basement. I don't know.
That's awesome. So what's going on? Anything good? Anything new? Anything exciting?
I am ready for tomorrow to be over.
Right? I think we all are at this
Like
point. What did I do?
even even
Hold on.
my even my little guy, my 9-year-old is like, Mom, I can't even watch YouTube. He
Right.
came out. We had a very long conversation about what things are being portrayed in all of these commercials. I've
Yeah.
never in my life seen so many political ads in my
Yeah.
mailbox, text messages, phone calls, TV. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm
I
just waiting for.
said Yeah, I know. I said earlier I don't generally talk about politics on my podcast, but I was like, it's the season, right? It's the night
Mm,
before the election. Tomorrow night we'll know who is going to be the leader of our country. And I just back when I was a kid and when we were kids, we're roughly the same age, right? It didn't matter what candidate you voted for. All it was rock the vote, right? That was the big thing, right? That you just went out and voted, right? That you did what your due diligence was as a citizen of this country, was to go and vote, right? And it seems like they've lost that, right? They don't like they're now more focused on who you vote for versus just the idea of getting up and going to vote, right? Which when we were kids, it was all about going to vote. It didn't matter what candidate you voted for or who. It was just the idea that you did it, right? It was kind of like your civic duty to vote. And now like they've lost that, right? That like and Jody just hopped on. She's a Gen Xer, right? But when we were kids, that was all you saw was athletes and movie stars and rock stars and musicians. They didn't care about what political side you voted for. They just wanted you to vote, right? That was the thing, was to get up and do it. And now like we've lost that, right? Like we are like that you get angry if you don't vote for the candidate that the person you like is voting for. It's like how far have we come like into degradation that like you
people
can't have a civil conversation
ending
with somebody.
right. You're ending friendships and relationships,
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't talk about it. I don't talk
I
about
don't
it
either.
because I tell my kids, I say, I just pray that the lesser of the evils will have the power, because
Yeah, and
there's
and
good
I
and
think
bad to it all, and
right.
it's so bad.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter who you vote for. We're all, or we should all be, one and the same, right? We're all Americans, right? We're all united in this country, right? It should just be the point that you shouldn't be demonized or hated because you have an opinion about a certain candidate, right? And that should be the idea of like our generation talked civilly about it, right? Like you had a conversation of why you thought one candidate was better than the other, and you kind of had your little argument. And then when you were all done, you just kind of went on drinking your coffee or, having your breakfast, right? Because it was usually the old timers that would always get in the arguments about it, right? But it's like, it shouldn't matter. The idea is that we get to vote for a president, right? That's what matters. It shouldn't matter what side of the fence you're on or what your ideologies are. The fact is we get to choose, right? And that's kind of like the underlying thing that like people have forgotten about now, right? We don't have dictatorships. We don't put people into power, right? And so, Jody said it right. The day after 9/11, right? That was probably the one day that America was most united, right? That it didn't matter who you voted for, it didn't matter what color your skin was. The fact that you were an American was all that mattered, right? When you raised the red, white, and blue up the flagpole, and everybody saluted that flag for all the fallen officers and the firefighters and all the people that lost their lives that day, it did not matter what political side of the fence you were on. We were united as a country, and we've come very, very far from that. We are probably the opposite of that now.
That's 100% true. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about how, things were when you and I were kids, and we would go outside and play, and we would do all
Yeah.
these things. And now, the internet is so heavily for everything, and phones, and, people can't, like it used to be, oh, you're rich if you have the internet, even if it was a dial-up connection.
Yeah.
And now it's, if you don't have the internet, then, oh, there must be something wrong with you. You must not have
Right.
money, and the tables have turned so immensely.
Right.
And my youngest kid said to me last night, he was like, Mom, when I grow up, my kids aren't going to have phones until they're 15. And I was like, okay, so I can take your phone away then? And he goes, no, that's not what
Right.
I said.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like, but they're seeing, he's seeing the effects of
Right.
social media and the things that, like, his friends are allowed to have that I don't allow him to have.
Yeah.
Same thing with my older kids too. They're 17 and almost 14, and
Right.
the amount of things that they're exposed to on the internet.
Yeah.
So they make, did you know this? They make a dating app like Tinder for minors.
I could imagine that, right?
Well, it's
I mean,
true.
And that's the thing, right? When we were in school and you liked somebody, right? You passed them a note that says, "Do you like me? Yes or no?" And you circled one, right? That was our dating as a kid, right? You basically, you were as mean as you could be to the girl you liked the most, right? You made her life miserable, and that showed affection, right? That was, if you weren't nice to the person you liked, you were mean to them, right? That was
Right,
kind of
exactly.
if you liked a girl, you said how bad she smelled, right? Or you kind of joked around in every like bullying way possible to show that was the person you liked, right? You weren't nice to them, you were mean to them.
Right. And now, if it's such a different place and time. I was just talking to my boss today about something she had posted on Facebook like 7 years ago about her now oldest son, who I think is like a freshman in high school. And it was this article about how this teacher had punched her second grade student because she was just straight up sick of him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I told my son that if he didn't start behaving in school, that was going to be him. And I was like, that post did not age well at all.
Hazel,
Like-
what's up? Yeah, right. And that's the thing, right? We didn't think twice about getting cracked by our parents, right?
No.
My mom would backhand me, like if I got out of line and I didn't see it coming, I got walloped, right? My dad, all he had to do was just start unbuckling the belt and I stopped, right? Because all it took was one whipping to never do it again, right?
Yeah. Well, I think my daughter's watching right now, and she knows, like, there's a
Yeah.
level of respect that is had in our household based upon the way that
Sure.
my husband and I were raised.
Yeah.
And the things that they say, both of my older kids are out of line sometimes, but in comparison to some of their peers,
Right.
my kids are so well behaved.
Yeah.
Like, there's, I don't want to use fear as a
Sure.
a punishment, or like, oh, you should be afraid of me, but it's not about
Right.
fear as much as it is about respect.
Right. But it works.
Right.
Right? That's the thing. When I was a kid in Catholic school, if you didn't pay attention in class and you weren't doing something right, the nun would come around and rack you on the knuckles with the ruler, right?
Yep.
You couldn't even
More than that.
fathom doing that to a kid now, right? I remember when I was in high school, we had a kid, his name was Chris. He fell asleep in class, right? He had his head down and he was like asleep in class, right? The teacher had a stack of tennis balls on his desk. He took tennis ball out of the container, stood up, and we were all laughing, right? He leaned back and rocketed the tennis ball, hit him right in the head, like bounced off his noggin. He woke up and was like, what the hell was that, right? We're all laughing. We thought it was great. Could you imagine a teacher throwing a tennis ball at a kid that's sleeping now?
No.
You couldn't do it. It was, when I was in high school, we all were laughing. We thought it was great. But he never slept again, right?
Yeah.
He never ever went to sleep in that class again.
When I was in 5th grade, I had a teacher, and she was like the worst. She was so mean. And she was like mean for no reason. I remember like repeatedly she would like my grandma had bought me like this stretchy bead bracelet and I would play with it
Hmm.
and she would take it away from me on a regular basis, but there was one time my daughter likes sleeping in class. That is horrible. I don't ever want to hear that again. I'll come downstairs and get you. But anyways, she actually shoved like the biggest, fattest kid in the class in a garbage can. She shoved him in a garbage can. And I don't remember why, but I just remember being like, what is happening right now? Like, she would take my things away and she would call my mom and she would send notes home. And now I can say that that was terrible for me.
Hmm.
But like the kids in middle school now, so my middle child is in middle school, and like
How old is
those
your child?
kids are out of control.
How old is the one in middle school?
He is almost 14.
Do you know what I miss the most being in school at that age? And kids will never ever experience is dodgeball.
Oh, they play dodgeball.
Do they
But
really?
it is like no hold. Hi,
That is
Isaiah.
awesome. Because
It
most
is
kids
no
don't know what
holds
dodgeball
bar.
is.
Oh my
And
God. I have never seen such competitive. So he just had a football party, the end of the year football party.
yeah.
And those kids, so it's fifth through eighth grade for middle school here. And those kids are wild. Like it is Death Con. You're out there. I was scared. Like they're like, "Oh, parents, do you want to play?" And I was like,
Right. And
"No, no, because they're gonna hurt me. Like they're legit gonna hurt
what's up,
me."
Mel?
They are so, oh, they're so wild. I don't know, but yes, dodgeball. But they don't use rubber balls now. They're not allowed because those are very, very, those are weapons. They use like foam Nerf balls, but they still hurt.
Oh, I could see that being the case, right? Because when I was a kid, like we played kickball, right? And
Hmm.
then we used to do the parachute. Do you remember that?
Yes,
So the kids
yes. I
would be
almost
in,
bought one at Walmart last year because I was like, this is like the best part of my elementary
Can
school
you
year right
imagine a
here.
kid getting flung now though in a parachute at school?
Or what about those
Right?
scooters? Did you have like those scooters, those scooty scooters,
Yeah.
where you like wiggled back and forth?
Yeah.
All the
So we had two, right? We had the ones where you got on all fours, you put your knees in your
Mhm.
hands, and you would lean forward, and your momentum when you moved them right to
Yep.
left would move the scooter, right? And we would basically play like bumper cars with those, right? It was who could knock who off the scooter, right? We
Mhm.
had those, and then we also had the pogo sticks, right? That was like big in gym class, right? So when you played pogo sticks, when you had a pogo stick when you were in gym class, right? It was not like to see how high you can get off the ground. It was to see who you can knock over, right? It was like full on body smash game, right? That was it, right? When we
It
were kids.
was. It was.
Very nice.
It was very. Well, when I was in eighth grade, we did wild things in gym class. We had, so we did the limbo on roller skates.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
I dislocated my entire kneecap doing
Really?
that. Like you want to make big, tough boys that don't cry, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
The top of my knee was flat and my kneecap was rounded on like it didn't break the skin or anything, but it
Yeah.
was just hanging out. Yeah. The
So
biggest,
we
toughest dude in the class
right.
was screaming.
And it's crazy because like we played floor hockey in the gym with those rubber plastic pucks.
Oh my
And
God.
I mean, you would take
Oh yeah,
we
rifling
we
them.
right. We didn't wear helmets or pads, right? You were just out there. So if that thing hit you, like it hurt like hell, right? It was like getting a stone thrown at you. It was
No, wiffle
horrible.
balls. Wiffle balls. Oh, she's
Wiffle
saying
ball?
that they still use
Yeah.
Even at the high school.
they still use the rubber pucks, she says.
Even at the high school.
Yeah. So we had we played when it snowed out, we had mall ball, which was basically like it wasn't football. It was basically you had a ball. It didn't matter if it was a football, a basketball, volleyball, whatever. And you threw it and everybody would run to get it. and you would just tackle each other in the snow, right? And then whoever got it would run around and everybody would try to tackle them. The object was right before you got tackled to throw it up and then let somebody else catch it and run around and try to get tackled. There was no like science behind it. It was just hit the person who had the ball as hard as you could. Because we were in the snow, like you'd hit them right in the, and this was like full on, and girls played it too. Like it was like tackle football without pads. It was insane. And we did this on the normal when it snowed. That was like what you did.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of things that are very frowned upon.
Right?
now.
Yeah.
Very frowned upon.
You know,
In elementary school, we played nut tag.
My daughter just said that when they were in elementary school, they used to play nut tag.
what's that? Is that where,
Where the boys would run around and they would hit each other in the nuts.
yeah, we called that Nazo.
I never played that game. I don't know anything about it, but whatever. I didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of friends, but it's okay.
We we had another thing we did too growing up in the city. We played a game called Four Corners because on an intersection there were four sewer covers, and then in the middle of the street there was a big sewer cover for the water main. So the pitcher would stand on that sewer cover. Home plate was whatever light was on the corner on. So the brightest light on the corners, because not all corners had lights. So in my street, you had a light on the other side, a light over here, and a light on our corner. So it hung over the street. So that was your light at night to play. And then you would just use a tennis ball and a wiffle bat, and you would play lob tennis ball, and you'd run around the bases. And we did it in the middle of the street. So it was like Wayne's World, right? Game on. When there were no cars coming, when you see cars coming, game off, and everyone would run to one side of the street. The car would go by, and then you just run back on the street, and you just start playing again. We did that all night because we couldn't, obviously, when the lights were out, you had to be on your block, right? So when the street lights came on, but at night when it was still kind of like light out, we would play Four Corners until like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, and then the parents on the weekends would all start yelling, "Come on in," and we'd call quits. And then the next morning we'd pick up where we left off. We'd start playing again.
We used to play Ghost in the Graveyard
Oh,
or
Cops and robbers.
I didn't play Cops and Robbers. I mean, my brother and his friends did,
Okay.
but I never did.
I love Cops and Robbers.
I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, we used
Right.
to play Foursquare.
Yeah, Foursquare was great.
That became a very sweaty thing with some of these
Yeah.
boys. Like they did not want to get out by a girl.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, right, is you had teams, right? So when one person got out, they would leave and another person would come on in. So it was like if you had an empty square, your goal was to get the other person, so you get a teammate. So the more people you had on your team, sometimes it was 3 against 1, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it was that was awesome, right? And all you need was chalk and numbers. Right?
We actually had at the schools that I went to, they actually had painted Foursquares.
Okay. So that was the one with the arrow, right, on one and then the dots on the other, right? Because when you were out, everybody moved to the right. So as
Well, yeah, when you got out, then everybody it was
yeah. So
Square.
when they painted them, because we chalked it out, right, when we played, but you would have the arrow to the right, you would have the loop over to the left, because one square you were able to go out of and come back in on the other one. So if you had, so there were all the designs of where you would start and where you could go on the 4 squares when you moved to the right. So it was kind of a
tetherball was another very
tetherball was, yeah.
You shoot the thing and like the ball in the thing.
I don't know what that thing is called. The multiple baskets, like
That was so fun.
Yeah.
but yes,
And they-
tetherball.
And the
Tetherball
multiple
was-
baskets, most of them had chains. They weren't nets, right? You had the chains, and you would
Yep.
shoot into the
Yeah.
That was so
But yes, tetherball was probably one of my favorites.
yeah.
That was one of my favorites. I could still play tetherball. That's about the only thing that I could do.
Have you ever seen Kicking and Screaming?
Yes.
When they play the tetherball, right? Yeah, tetherball. Do you remember the one that had the one basket? It was like a giant. It looked like an upside down triangle, and it had the 4 holes that would come out of the bottom, and you would throw the ball in, and it would bounce around, and it would come out of one of the 4 sides. It was like a basketball hoop, but it was like
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, my daughter was just saying she liked to play that one too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and okay, so I'm not. I mean, she's 17, so she started school in 2011. So they still had those things. Now they just updated all the playgrounds where we live with our referendum that passed last year. So now they have things that are more inclusive, but they took away what I would deem to be all the fun stuff.
Right.
Like,
Because of
it's like, you know, but I mean, yes, they have to be safe, and they're trying to include the kids with disabilities and all of that. Like,
Yeah, and that
but
makes sense, right? Like,
what about these kids that want to be wild and ridiculous?
Yeah.
Like, now what are you gonna let them do?
right?
17, but I'm
Calm
still gonna go play in the
down.
park.
Can't do that.
Yeah, and you know, it was wild because, like,
Here's this part.
obviously, you know, not having a cell phone, you had to be creative in the games that you played. Whether it was just putting a square on a brick wall and throwing a ball into it, right, to see how many times you could hit in the middle of the square, right? Because the ball would bounce back to you, whether it was a league ball or a racket ball or a tennis ball, right? You could do that for hours, right? All you needed two people, right? Just to throw the ball in and let the other person catch it, you know, and stuff like that. It was just like simple games, but like it was, you know, we didn't have that. And I remember when I was a kid, my neighbor got the Nintendo, the original Nintendo 64, right? That was the first time we went inside to play when it was a nice day out, because we had 4 or 5 of us at his house playing Nintendo because it was like the thing to do, right? Then when we all started getting them, we would go to each other's houses to play, right? So you would have 2 players play and 4 people watching,
Yeah.
right? And then when you lost, the next person you'd switch remotes and the winner would stay on. And we did that for hours, right? But I think that was like the intro to kids basically staying inside, right? Was like video games, because I remember when I was a kid, the only really time we played video games at that level was when it was raining outside, right? When it was inclement weather and you had no choice, you stayed inside, you played video games. But for the most part, we only did that as like a recreational thing at night, right? When it was time to come inside, we all went to each other's houses to play, but we were outside for the majority of the time. And again, I'm not knocking this generation, right? Like, having a cell phone at your fingertips is fantastic, right? You can stay in contact with everybody. You can find anything you want about anything at any given time, right? You get to talk to people around the world. It is fantastic, right? It is awesome to do that, right? But at the same time, how fascinating it is, right? Is kind of like the degradation of youth's minds, right? They don't experience activity anymore. You don't need to.
No, that was a sneezing teenager and one whining because there's no snacks or something.
Yeah.
What's happening? And now we've got a wild beast
Right.
racing through. It's bedtime.
So yeah, so that's just, you know, the thing, right, about, you know, being a kid and growing up in the generation we did was, you know, not having phones available and doing all the stuff we talked about outside was fantastic, right? It was just, it's a generation lost.
Now they have things like Orby guns. And, you know, my younger one likes his Nerf guns.
Yeah.
But yeah, Orby guns, because they're like paintballs, but
Right.
not. And
Yeah.
why? Like, I don't know. I bought my kid one because he was like, "Hey, mom, can you?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, fine." I think I paid like 35 cents for it total because I had Kohl's cash and it was there and
Right.
whatever. But like, you know, it's like, oh, well, what are you guys doing? And some of the games, now I'm going to tell you this because I think it's absolutely hilarious. I have a friend who has a son who is close in age to my middle one.
Okay.
And he and his friends at school were playing border hoppers.
Okay.
And I'm like, border hoppers? And she's like, so all the white kids were chasing the Mexicans and they had to get across the border. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yes. I was like, welcome to public school.
Right.
She was laughing. And then so one of these children ended up at her house and she kept calling him by his first name and he wasn't answering. And so then her son was like, hey, and I don't remember I think they called him Monkey. And she's like, Monkey, whatever. And he's like, she's like, why weren't you answering me? And he's like, well, I preferred to be called Monkey. Now, mind you, this is a Mexican child with floppy ears, but he would rather be called that than by his own given name.
Hey,
And
whatever.
they think it's hilarious
Yeah.
to play border hoppers, and they have to catch them and detain them and do all the. And I'm like, this is not like, nope,
Oh, I know.
not
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You know what? You know what's funny is that you were mentioning the
right.
Nerf gun thing that they're playing now, right? And
Blasters?
Yes, gel blasters.
I don't know if you remember, because we had laser tag, right? That was our big thing, right? You wore the chest protector and you shot the lasers. But I was watching yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday was Sunday, so it was Saturday, right? I started watching the Netflix thing on American Gladiators, and like all the memories started like flooding back to like Saturday mornings watching American Gladiators was awesome, right? And I was like, man, this is like our generation will never know what that's like, right? To do that. They have American Ninja Warrior now, which is
Right.
kind of similar to that because you compete against yourself. But I mean, can you imagine like a normal person going up against these monsters of men and women that like it could not happen today. It just wouldn't be able to do it.
No, and it wouldn't be the same at all. Oh my god.
I'm gonna try to get one.
So, excuse me. It is time for you to go brush your teeth and go to bed, please.
I already brushed my teeth.
All right. Well, then it's time for you to go to bed.
Howie, you're in my way. Get over here!
Oh my goodness. They're all wild tonight. It's fine. It's Monday.
Hey,
It's the beginning of the month. It was just a new moon. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Mom, did you even hear me say goodnight?
Good night, Eli. He's such a
good
little
night,
stinker.
family.
Being a senior thing. What'd you just call me?
I called you a stinker, and he said good night. He said good night to you. Oh my goodness, he's shaking my phone. What are you eating now? SpaghettiOs. See, they're still children, so childhood foods that
Hey,
they don't make like they used to. I loved raviolis.
I did. The Chef Boyardee raviolis.
The raviolios, the ones that were shaped like
Yeah.
a circle. They don't make them anymore, but they still
Yeah.
make the stupid spaghetti.
Yeah. They
My-
You know what I saw the other day that I was actually thinking I was tempted about getting was the Hormel tamales in the can.
Oh,
Those were phenomenal. So they had the Hormel chili, they had the Hormel tamales, and then they had those Hormel hot dogs that you would drain the water and you would put those little hot dogs in the chili. It was fantastic. Like Hormel was like incredible as a kid. I can't believe we ate that stuff, but it tasted so good. And it's probably loaded with sodium and like
Absolutely not.
oh my goodness, that's funny.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So raviolios, like up until they stopped making them, like a couple of years ago, that was like one of my kid foods that I like loved. We have a grilled cheese toaster, which I didn't know was a thing. When my mother-in-law
What's up,
passed
Shell?
away last year, we inherited this grilled cheese toaster, which is like perfect for the kids because let's butter up the bread, stuff the cheese in it, throw it in the toaster, and I don't have to worry about them burning the entire house down.
Yeah.
Just the outlet in the kitchen. And
Yeah. You know what the hack is to use the waffle maker to make grilled cheese.
yeah, so I keep seeing the waffle maker.
Yeah. You know what the hack is to use the waffle maker to make grilled cheese.
Yeah, so I keep seeing the waffle maker.
Yeah, so the hack is that you take 2 slices of bread with Yeah, so the hack is that you take 2 slices of bread with some butter and you put the cheese on it and you close the waffle machine and you flip it down, and when you open it up, it turns the bread and the grilled cheese into like a circle because it's like a waffle, but it's a grilled cheese and it takes like 3 minutes to make.
See,
The Foreman was
I
fantastic.
just saw one for the Foreman grill. I
Foreman
think
grill
I
was
just
great.
got rid of ours not that long ago. The waffle maker, I just saw a video, I think it was yesterday, for baked, like loaded baked potatoes. So you take a potato and you like mash it up in there and then put all your stuff, and then it makes it like crispy on the outside. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I apparently
Did
don't
you see
know
the things?
how to utilize
What's up, Beth? Did you see the Thanksgiving one?
my. No.
So you take the stuffing, you take the turkey, you take the cranberry sauce, and you take, I forgot what it was, turkey, potatoes, mashed potatoes, and then you put stuffing on the top and you close it. And it makes a Thanksgiving dinner with all your leftovers and like a single bite waffle.
Right. Because, that's
Why not,
exactly what we
right?
need for our leftovers. I love the so I just saw one for it was like the layer biscuits,
Yeah.
and you like delayer them and you dip
Mhm.
them in butter and then cinnamon sugar, and then you lay them you stand them up in like a bread pan,
Yeah.
and then you essentially like make a loaf of peelable bread.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? The internet is wild.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, because you do it you do it in the circular cake pan, like you would make like angel food cake in.
Yep.
And then when you turn it upside down, and the holes in the middle, so the middle you can put whatever you want to dip into it. So you can
yep,
peel
I saw that one too.
Yeah.
I saw the pizza bread.
Yeah.
I saw
so you
that
could
this
do
morning. I was like,
so you could do the pizza bread, you can do the pretzel bread with the cheese. So you get like beer cheese and you make it like the pretzel version of it. So you peel it off, you dip the pretzels in it. You can do the caramel with the sauce with, like you said, with the cinnamon. So you basically make it like you pull it off and you dip it in the middle. But because you make it in the cake pan, it turns upside down. It's got the hole in the middle. So you just grease it with butter and then you put it in, you bake it. And then when you flip it over and you pull it out, whatever you want to put in the middle, the dip is available. So
right.
yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
One recipe that we found was Big Mac egg rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Yeah, I
you
made
take
those.
the wonton
Yeah.
wrapper, and then my daughter actually puts the sauce inside,
Yeah.
and then you can air fry them. We
Right.
deep fry them, but holy man,
Yeah. So another good version of that is if you buy the roast beef and peppers or the jardiniere and make roast beef egg rolls. Those are
Oh.
phenomenal. So you don't need those are very good. And then the other one is it's chili, Fritos, sour cream and cheese in the egg roll, and it basically makes like an edible chili.
I saw a chili dip the other day that was super easy that I think I'm gonna make the next time I get a hankering for chili, because I love chili. Nobody else in my house does. But you take a block of softened cream cheese, a can of Hormel chili with or without beans, and then cheddar cheese, and you just layer them in a pan and throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
Then you eat it with Fritos.
So there's a guy, his name is what is it? Pepper something Pete, Pepper Belly Pete or something like that. He makes in a crock pot, he takes a brick of Velveeta, a brick of cream cheese, chili, peppers that are the like the serrano peppers, the ones that aren't hot. They're like the little chile ones. He dips that in there, and then he puts cheese and something else, and he melts it, and it makes the same thing. You could either add macaroni and cheese noodles to it to make like a Southwest mac and cheese, or do what you did. You take the Frito scoops and dip it like a dip.
Yes.
Tracy,
Mexican-
what's up?
Mexican corn dip is another one.
What's that movie called?
Hot
Yeah,
and
so
cold.
the corn dip is good.
Hot
Yeah,
and
so
cold.
it's
Take
just
it all the way.
yeah. And it's crazy, right? Because like when we were kids, like it took our moms and dads, right? If they were making something a snack for us, right? It was like a prep thing, right? Like they would make like a bunch of sandwiches and they'd make like, and now with the modern technology of air fryers and crock pots and the cast iron pans that they're making now, right? That go right in the oven. You put a meal in the pan, right? Like we didn't have any of that, right? It was just kind of cool that it was, available to us at that point. But like I remember like when I was a kid, like my mom, like you had to put effort into snacks, right? Like making peanut butter and jelly and like doing it. It was like there was an art to it. Now it's just like it's so easily and readily available, but like it's just weird,
Have you
right?
seen
That the stuff that we had
have you
as
seen
kids.
the depression pie
Yeah.
I want.
with the Ritz crackers
So
and
that's
it's supposed to taste like apple pie?
so so I saw the one where it's you get basically pie dough, it's water and
Mm-hmm.
sugar, and that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
A couple sticks of butter, like I think it's like a quarter stick of butter. It's water, sugar, and butter, and when you pull it out, it makes like a custard. It's supposed to be phenomenal, and it costs like $3 to make. And all they
See,
call it the
and I
water
keep
pie. It's the
seeing
depression pie.
I've seen that one, and then there's the one with the Ritz crackers. So it's
Okay, I don't
Ritz
know if I've seen
crackers,
that one.
water. It looks disgusting. Disgusting. But it is Ritz crackers, water, sugar, cream of tartar, cinnamon, and then you melt like a half a stick of butter and put it in a bag with some cinnamon and sugar and the Ritz crackers, and then you like put the soup in the pan or in the pie crust, and then you sprinkle the apple or the topping on top, and then you bake it, and it supposedly tastes like apple pie without the apples.
Apple pie without apple.
I mean,
And I'm
I'd
like,
be willing to try it, right?
I have the
Because they
stuff
made
to
those.
make it. I don't know if
You
I
gotta
want
let me
to
know
do
how that
that.
turns out because I have seen the one where you make like the custard pie with the water, sugar, and a butter, and all it is it's liquid, and you throw it in the oven, and in 15 minutes or 20 minutes it solidifies, and it turns into like a custard pie, and and everyone said it's like one of the best things you could ever eat, and it costs like $5 to make.
It's fair enough.
Yeah,
See,
so I don't
what
know.
would we
Just
do without the internet? What would we
right, that's
do?
it. So going back like full circle, like it's one of those things where it's like a necessary evil, right? Because imagine like if you left the house and you didn't have your phone, right? You are lost without it. Like I have everything in my phone, and I could probably manage a day, right, with not having it. Like if I left it, but if I went on a weekend trip and I left my phone behind, I'd be devastated, right? I'd have to consider going back and getting it, right? I couldn't. I don't think I'd live without it for more than a day. And it's sad to say that, right? Because we lived our entire childhoods without it, right? We never had it.
Right.
We wrote everything down. We memorized numbers. We had, you had at least 5 phone numbers in your head that you can dial at any given time. That if you needed a ride or you needed to call somebody, collect, to leave the "come get me, I'm ready" message, right? Call and collect. Like you had numbers memorized. Like I have like 3 numbers that I know off the top of my head memorized, and the rest are in my phone. And if I don't have it, I'm not getting a hold of that person.
Yeah, I can still remember my childhood phone number.
I do too, right?
Two of them actually. My grandparents' phone number, like things like that. But now, I can call my mom, my brother, my husband, one of my 3 children because I don't
Right.
know their phone numbers.
You know?
They're my kids.
And
I
that's
pay
the
them every
thing, right?
month.
Like you have like, when I was a kid, I knew my 3 best friends, I knew my cousins' numbers, my aunts and uncles, my obviously the home phone, because they all had landlines, right? So you didn't have cell phones, but you knew their house lines, right? You knew I could get a hold of my aunt and uncle, I can get a hold of my cousins, I can get a hold of somebody knowing these phone numbers now, right? I don't know anybody's number. If I went to work and somebody said, "call me," and I didn't have my phone, I wouldn't know how to get, there's no way. I'd have to borrow somebody else's phone to either look up their number or use their phone to call them, because I'd have no idea what they are. I don't write down any numbers anymore. I used to have a telephone book where you kept like, just in case, God forbid, your phone broke or whatever. Now it's as simple as just going to get a new phone and loading the cloud back up to it and starting from new, right? You do the backup, you pick up right where you left off. There's no need to save anything anymore. But it's like, when you were a kid, you had a calendar, you had a phone book, you had paper and a pen with you anywhere you went. Because if you needed to write somebody's number down or something, information or an address, and you figured it out yourself, right? We didn't have, I remember when we first had MapQuest, right? When you print out directions and try to
My
figure it
dad
out,
still does. It's funny.
right?
I was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, So he took a trip to Virginia, and he had printed out MapQuest directions. I'm like, Dad. And he's like, also got a paper map. And I'm like,
Yeah.
great. And he's
Right.
like, well, there's lots of areas that don't have service. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. But
But
that's the thing, right? If somebody gave you a Rand McNally map right now,
mhm,
there are a handful of people that would know how to figure out the grid, where north, south, east, and west is, where you are and where you need to get. Not many people would be able to do it. They
right.
would look at it and be like, what am I supposed to do with this, right? They wouldn't know how to figure it out. And I remember when navigation, like the portable navigations became like a thing, right? The TomToms and the Garmin's and I remember I bought one. I spent my money on, it was like $500, and I plugged it in. I had it on my dash. My dad thought that was the greatest thing ever, that we could just plug in an address and it would take you there, that you didn't have to read a map. You didn't have to get like the Rand McNally map out. You didn't have to, he couldn't fathom like how this thing worked, like satellites in the sky and like sending signals down to it to register your geographic location, to tell you how to get there. I remember we took a road trip to St. Louis, and he was fascinated by this thing telling you in 3 miles, you're going to turn right onto, 55 south towards St. Louis. And it would like take you literally there. And he was like mind blown by this thing. It was like, it was a James Bond thing to him, right? Like it was so like far-fetched technology. He couldn't figure out like how it worked. Like it was like a big thing to him, right? Like I didn't realize at the time, but it's like he never had it, right? So if you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't have been introduced to it. You wouldn't have known, right? You wouldn't have been any wiser.
Right. Right. We were just talking the other day too about cell phone numbers. So I can remember, I actually have a picture of the cell phone number that I had before I have the one now. But I had an Einstein prepaid phone, and I was one of the first people, I feel like, to have a plan. And we were talking about like the memories still show up on my Facebook where it's like, oh, unlimited nights and weekends, and
Right.
all of this and all of that. Well, I have had the same phone number for more than 21 years. My cell phone number has not changed. So if you knew
Okay.
me like 20 years ago, my phone number hasn't changed. So I still think it's funny when people call me and they're like, are you sure this isn't the right? And I'm like, listen, I have had
Yeah.
this phone number
Right.
since I was since I was 20. Okay, I'm telling you right now,
And
it's mine.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? You mentioned it earlier. People like the kids today will never know the struggle to wait until 8:01 to make a phone call, because that's
Or
when your
9.
night started.
Or 9.
It was 8. It was 8 by us. So I
So
remember
it
you'd say,
started
"Hey,
out at 9. Like it was like, ooh, 9 o'clock, and then they moved it up to 8, and then ooh, your nights and weekends start at 6, and I'm like,
yeah." I remember when I was a kid. It was I was like almost 22 years old at this time, right? Because I remember my parents, they had a phone in the car in the center console, right? It was on the floorboard, and it was the Motorola one. So you'd have to like type the number. You could actually call, but it wasn't hands free. You actually had to pick it up to call. And I remember when I was in college, they would call me from the phone to tell me that they were like 5 minutes away, so that I can get downstairs to open the door for them, right? And everybody was like, at that time, it was a thing to have a phone in your car. Like that was, I remember my parents had an Oldsmobile 98, and it was like a very luxurious item to have that, right? That you could call somebody from the road to tell them that you were either on their way or that you were close, right? And so a lot of times at school, they charged us per minute. So my parents, what they would do is they would let the phone ring 3 times, they would call once, and then they would call again, so I knew it was them, so I wouldn't get charged per like call. So that was our code for like that was them to answer the phone to and it was just like the bizarre things we did, right? But I remember when I was a kid, we still had the cord landline phones, right? And I remember back in the day when the portable phones first came out, right, where you had the antenna where you'd lift it up, and it was a big 3-foot wire antenna, and you'd have to like, right, and that.
I can't tell you how many I broke off, and I thought my mom was going to kill me
Yeah,
because my brother and I
right.
would fight with them. We were
Yeah,
because if you had two, it was even better. So
yeah,
yeah, they were square
yeah. And they weren't sturdy, right? Like you would lift it up
no,
after probably a couple months, and the top one would pop out, and then you'd have to get duct tape and put it on there, to get it to stay, right?
and the rotary phones
Ugh. Yeah,
taking forever to dial. You can't angrily hang
I
up, your cell
I
phone.
had a road. I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old, so I was probably 87 or 88, and we finally Illinois Bell had introduced the first wall phones that actually had numbers that weren't rotary phones. That because the old phones on our wall still had the rotor on it. And I remember when we first got the touch tone phones, it was like a world of like it was like you won the lottery when you got this thing, right? And it was just the little things that excited us that you didn't have to wait 4 or 5 minutes to dial out. You could just hit a button and within 30 seconds the phone was ringing. It was like the greatest thing ever.
Right.
And that's when you actually had to go to the phone company because we had to go to Illinois Bell to actually get the phone from the company. They didn't sell them in stores. You had to take your phone in, turn it in, and get a new one. And anytime you broke your phone, you'd have to go to the Illinois Bell and get a phone replacement because you couldn't just go to the store and buy one. They weren't convenient.
Yeah. The well, there was another thing. I forgot I was gonna say now. That's okay. Oh, caller ID.
Yeah.
So the salon that I work at, does not have caller ID. And it drives me nuts because I've become so accustomed to
Right.
at least
To
being
see,
able
right.
to see who is calling.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, and to not have long distance. I was like,
Yeah.
what? And they're like, oh, well, if you have to call anywhere outside of
Yeah.
this area, then you need to use your cell phone. I'm like, what? What do
Right.
you mean?
It's
Like, my
crazy.
cell phone has free long distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay for it, but
Right.
so I can remember when my husband and I first started dating 21 years ago, he would fall asleep on the phone with me.
Yeah.
And, nights and weekends, right? Well, his grandma would always, I'd go over to the house and she's like, you and Travis need to stay off that phone. He's going over his allotted minutes
Yeah.
for, we're going to pay all these overages. And my kids would be like, for every night that they spent on the
Right.
phone with their friends on FaceTime, falling asleep, listening to each other snore.
Right.
Like, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why are we on FaceTime?
Yeah.
Like, why are you on FaceTime? They're
and
not
we
talking
had,
to you.
And at that point too, that was like the pre-data age, right? Because data was if you played games, right? If you played Snake or Solitaire or Tetris or Pong, that was accumulating data. And back in the day, you only had 1 gig of data, right?
Yep.
So if you played Snake and you were doing very well at it, right, that was eating up all your data. So if you were kept winning in Snake, people didn't realize that that's what they were. Because you remember back in the day, some people were getting like $800-900 phone bills because they were going over their data, and they were like, I didn't know, right? You didn't realize like that you actually had to watch it because this was pre-Wi-Fi, right? So data was not, it was streamed. It wasn't free.
Did you watch?
Paid for it. It was a couple of days later, Blockbuster we paid. Yeah, it's just crazy to think all the stuff we've gone through.
Right? All of the things. And we're not that old. Like, we're not that old. But like, oh, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, 20 years ago. And I'm like, 20 years ago? That was like 2000 something. What?
I remember the first iPhone SE.
So, 20 years ago, that was like 2000 something. What?
I remember the first iPhone SE.
So, yeah. Was,
That phone was 20. I got the free. I still actually have my very first iPhone. It's in my drawer. I kept it. The generation one was 2013.
Wendy. My goodness.
Yeah, I still have my phone.
I had the Nokia
and
with
that
the
was
changeable
revolutionary.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went
I had
from
the
the Motorola
Nokia with the
Q,
changeable. Okay.
which was the BlackBerry, to the iPhone. I had the Motorola Q. It was the
Okay.
first phone I had with a color touchscreen on it. And then when the iPhone came out in 2013, I went to AT&T because that was the company that had it. You could only get it through AT&T.
So my had this Motorola that was kind of bubble shaped that had changeable faces. And then I had a flip phone that had dual cameras. Dual
Yeah.
camera flip phone. I read one. I was pregnant with my daughter, so that was 2007. And then I had
So at that time I
a
had the
slider.
Razor.
So I had the slider with the
That
keyboard.
Razor at that era.
And then I was a
I got
Samsung girl.
because I had the Motorola, the one that looked like the hot dog bun. It had round screen on. It was like square at the bottom, but it was round on top, and it had the little kind of square circled looking face on it, and it was like black and white, and it had all the buttons underneath. And then I went from that phone to the Razor, and then I went from the Razor to the BlackBerry, the original BlackBerry. It was Sony had it, and then I went to the Motorola Q, which was the better version of the BlackBerry, but it was still BlackBerry, but it was Motorola Q. And then I went from the Q to the iPhone. That was and the iPhone was, like I said, revolutionary when I got it. And I looked at it the other day, and it's like I can't believe how small it is. It's like half the size of a normal phone.
Yeah. I had a couple of different flip phones. I really loved my dual camera red one that I had that somebody stole in Walmart. I was really sad because all of my pictures were on there,
Right.
but this was like, pre-cloud
Sure.
and all of that. And then I ended up with the slider with the full keyboard. So it was like
Yeah, I
the
remember
first phone that you could slide and had a full keyboard.
Yeah.
And then I was a Galaxy girl. I Galaxy until for a long time. And then my brother was like, I was
What's up,
pregnant
Landon?
I had just had my, hey buddy, how's it going? So 14 years ago, I got my first iPhone, a hand-me-down iPhone from my brother.
Okay.
And I've been hooked ever since. I had just had Owen, and he gave me his iPhone because my phone was dying and I couldn't afford to buy a new one. And he's like, well, you can just have this one. And that was my first iPhone, was like it might have been the 5.
Okay.
Because you were 4. That's why you don't remember. And then I had an iPhone.
You went back to Samsung?
I think I went back to Samsung, and then I ended up, like, our entire family ended up with iPhones, and I do not regret it at all.
Okay.
It's nice being able to monitor.
So I went from the original iPhone to the iPhone 4. And then from the 4, when Motorola came out with the Razr, the smartphone, so it was a super skinny phone, and it just had a little lip on the back of it where all the 4 cameras were. It was like the most revolutionary phone at the time. I had that phone for 2 years. And then when the iPhone came out with the 6, I went back to because I didn't have the iPhone 5. So I went from the 4 to the Motorola Razr to back to the iPhone 5, and then I've been with iPhone ever since. So I've only had Android once.
Yeah, we had like Sierra's first phone was like a J. It wasn't even an iPhone, her very first phone, and that's when I discovered that with my brother's guidance, because he was an Apple guru,
Right.
I call him. He was like, you need to be able, because I couldn't control her settings from my phone. Like her phone was supposed to shut off at a certain time and it wouldn't. And he's like, well, you can do all of that for free. Like you don't even have to pay for the service if you just get everybody iPhones. So her first iPhone was the 7 Plus,
Right.
and she loved that thing because it was the bigger screen, the dual cameras, and and I look back at it now and I'm like, this thing is a pile of trash. Like,
Yeah, right.
it's so crazy.
I mean,
Much has
just look at
changed.
how far, like, between the 6, 7, 8 to the iPhone X, right? Like, the iPhone X basically crushed every other iPhone that was before it, right? With its capability, its technology, the swipe up, the camera capability, the focus, I mean, it was just such it was so far advanced that, it's kind of like the precursor to the modern phone, right? Because even at that time, Samsung still had the Galaxy, I think they were on the 8s at that time, and then the Galaxy 10 competed with the iPhone X, which, obviously was the iPhone 10. But I mean, that phone revolutionized the modern phone market, right? Like Apple took the cake in that.
Yeah.
And even now,
and
if you have,
Watching really isn't that bad.
is that a date?
with,
It's Series 10. So yeah, the brand new one that just came out.
That doesn't mean that it's data.
Okay, let's see.
She's talking about Apple Watches. That's another thing too that I feel like I can't live without is my stupid watch now.
Yeah, it says choose of GPS or GPS plus and GPS.
Apple.
So
So yeah,
Apple Watches.
Yeah.
yeah, mine's freaking old.
And that's
Yeah,
another
mine
thing
is
too, right?
old.
Like I have a big watch collection. I'm a watch guy, but I wear my Apple Watch 90% of the time. Very few times do I switch into something that like isn't an Apple Watch. I'm so used to having it.
Well, right, because I'm like, oh, instead of, staring at my phone, I'm like, oh, my watch vibrated.
Yeah.
Like, which one of my
Right.
kids is in trouble now? Are they speeding? Did they leave the house?
Yeah.
I'm on a 42
Like, what is
or
happening?
46? Because then that one's 430.
So,
Well, I guess I'll just have to wait.
yeah, things have definitely come a long way, when we
Yes,
first
they
got,
have, right?
cell phones and,
Yeah.
dial-up internet. My brother would intentionally pick up the phone just to make it disconnect.
Right.
And when we had hackers, this guy so he hacked our home computer and he made all these
Okay.
little frogs jump across the screen. I thought my mom was gonna
Yeah.
kill me. Like, she's like, what do you, and I was like, Mom! And I'm like crying. I was
Right.
really upset. I didn't know what was going on because all of a sudden all these things were happening on my computer screen. And she's like, you gave us a virus. And my brother's like, ew, you gave us a virus. And she's like on the computer and
Right.
he's like, oh. Well, now my brother's a techie nerd and he does that kind of stuff for a living. So,
Yeah. It paid off.
oh my goodness. They're now making TikToks. I don't know what she's doing. She's watching Sixth Sense and now she feels the need to make a TikTok. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, fair
Do you
enough.
imagine if these kids didn't have the internet, cell phone data? Like,
They'd be playing
they had to be
Monopoly
like
right
normal kids and
Right? Uno.
right. Exactly. They actually like to play Monopoly, but only if it's on a gaming console.
I like
Right.
playing normal Monopoly. I
And
just like to cheat.
what else? Oh, we do play card games. We play like Cards
Okay.
Against Humanity and
Yeah.
things that are probably not age appropriate, but
Right.
it's okay.
Cards Against Humanity.
But yeah, we're trying to do more without all of the electronics, but it's
Right.
hard. Like
It
it's
is
hard to.
It's your life is built around it, right? Even watching TV, it's all Wi-Fi, right?
It's all streaming.
No,
It's all
you don't-
streaming services.
Yeah. It's it, right?
And it
You
still
see what's
costs me
on.
$1 billion.
I don't want to
Yeah.
watch this no more. Scary.
You use your phone to find out what's good, and you link right to it. It's awesome.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to order something and have it delivered to my house. Okay.
I don't know. When COVID happened and all of that stuff was available, all the delivery service and the pickups and the like. I don't remember the last time that I ordered something from a store and I went in and got it. I do curbside all the time. I just order it, I go and pick it up, they put it in my car and I go. Right? Very
That's
few
my
times.
daughter's job. She works at Walmart. That is
Yeah.
what she does.
It's
The
unbelievable.
online order pickup. And she's like, Mom, these people are wild. And I'm like,
Freaking wild.
I worked at Walmart. When, we had push button cash registers and, whatever.
When employees actually worked and just didn't stand around because you do everything for yourself now.
Right. But she, so she's a personal shopper. So she gets those online orders. And there are some days that I get Snapchats from her. I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working. And she's like, 6 pregnancy tests on one order? You need to wrap it up, lady. I was like, holy smokes, ma'am. Stop judging the people that are paying your bills here.
Okay, listen. But when you buy a vibrator and a pregnancy test at the same time, what else do you want me to think?
Oh, yeah. My son also discovered last night, he asked me this question about something about a dildo. And I was like, yep, they sell those at Walmart too. And he goes, what? And I'm like, yep, right next to the lube and the condoms. And he goes, are you serious?
Right.
And I'm like, the only reason I know is because I had to walk past it. It's next to the feminine care products.
Yeah,
like,
they're called
massagers,
though.
Right. Personal massagers. Sorry.
Right.
Jeez. Yeah, personal massagers. And my son's friend is like,
yeah, right.
If I would have said that word in front of my mom, she would have grounded me for a month. And I'm like, well, I guess I have some pretty low morals then, or standards or something like that. And he started laughing. And I'm like, it's a reality now. You can literally walk into Walmart. And that is not a specialty item anymore. You can just walk into Walmart and buy it.
And again, I'm dating myself hardcore here. But do you remember when Spencer's used to have the erotic section in the mall?
Oh, yes. They still do.
You go to Spencer's and they'd have the handcuffs and the oils and all the nudie stuff and the decks of cart. Yeah. That was like,
For my 21st birthday, my friends went there and bought me a glow-in-the-dark massager and a box of penis pasta. That's what I got for my birthday.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me in the middle of Country Kitchen. Because that's when we used to hang out at Country Kitchen, because Country Kitchen was a thing.
Right.
Where was Country?
Yeah, Country Kitchen was behind Wendy's, or Fork and Knife is.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, there. I mean,
I went to school in
never
Wisconsin, right?
know.
And so I remember going to school in Wisconsin as a freshman, right? And Illinois didn't really have any exotic bookstores, right? You really had to go and like look, right? They were in certain areas, and they were like. And I remember the first going to school in Wisconsin, and you cross the border, it's like the adult book mega store, right? And I'm like, holy hell, like this is like, and they were everywhere, like every street corner in Wisconsin had an adult bar. That's all there was. I was like, what do they do out here? I'm like, the birth rate has to be enormous.
The giant billboards around like the Fond du Lac, Sheboygan area, like I chuckle as I'm driving down I-43. It doesn't matter if you're going north or south, but the closer you get to Sheboygan, the more advertisements there are for those types of things. And I'm like, and going into Appleton too, like the amount of gentlemen's clubs and things of that nature. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You gotta teach them.
I remember, like I said, going over right to the border, right? Illinois into Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, right? And that was the first thing you saw was 24-hour adult bookstore. You drive a couple more miles and it was like, there's another adult bookstore. It was like 7 miles ahead, exit, 31A. And it's like, what the hell? They were everywhere. Everywhere you went in Wisconsin on 94 North.
Yeah.
It was like Cracker Barrel, beer, adult bookstore. Cracker Barrel, beer, adult book. I was like, is there anything else in Wisconsin besides Cracker Barrels and adult bookstores?
Plaza,
yeah.
Every travel plaza has an exotic section.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. It was like I couldn't get over it. It was such a culture shock.
I remember
I want to go to
when we
And-
were kids and we would go to the gas station, like the Unimarts,
Yeah.
and they used to have vending machines in the bathrooms for
Oh yeah,
condoms.
yeah.
And so we would take all of our quarters into the bathroom and empty out these machines and then chew them like bubble gum. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Oh, I blow
You'd
my.
have,
Like, oh, these smell good. Why
Yeah.
why do I care
And-
what it smells like?
and not only that, in Wisconsin, it was really kind of cool because you had the condom machines, you had the cologne machines, right? You would get like you'd open it up and it was like a wet nap and you just kind of wipe it on yourself. They had those.
Yeah.
And then they had the
Yeah.
gas station boner pills. You get like the
Yes.
stacker, you get like the stacker too, right? Or whatever it was. You had all the, the ones that are on fire and the flames, right? So it was like you had a night out going to a gas station in Wisconsin. You get your condoms, your boner pills, and your cologne, right? You were set to go, right?
You were ready for the night.
That was
Yeah.
that was it. It was awesome. I miss Wisconsin.
That was my whole life. I don't know what you're talking about.
They're so ugly.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, like those. Yes. The cologne. I do remember those. The condoms for sure. Well, obviously I was never in a men's bathroom, so I wouldn't know what
Yeah.
other kinds of things in there, but yeah, I could just
Yeah.
remember going into the one Unimart and always emptying it out. I'm like, why? I don't know
Right.
why. Like,
Yeah.
I had no use for them whatsoever other
Growing
than
up like this.
it
It was-
said that they smelt or tasted a certain way, and I was like, oh, we're gonna try that.
Yeah.
Why?
Ellie,
Why?
what's up?
Why are we doing this? I don't know.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? Because you had and I remember too in Wisconsin when they had the when you went to like a store and it was basically the vending machines where you could pretty much go and get like your normal sodas, and then they had the cigarettes,
Yes.
and then they and the vending, like you buy candy bars in one and cigarettes in another one, and then and I remember going to Kenosha when we went to what was it, not the Boathouse, Harborside, right? So Harborside
Yes.
was one of the last places that had indoor smoking, right? It was an indoor smoking section, and when you walked in there, it was vending machines with cigarettes and the same stuff we talked about before, the condoms and the colognes and stuff like that. And it was like, it wasn't even in the bathroom. They were just vending machines on the wall, right? You could just buy your Marlboros for $6 a pack and it would drop out.
These are the original makers of Yankee candles.
Yeah, so Harborside is actually
Ellie
like
said
not
she's
far
from
from here.
Wisconsin. What part of Wisconsin are you from?
Yeah.
Fir, needles, and frosted eucalyptus.
So
Like that one.
yeah, Harborside has excellent food, by the way.
Pumpkin
Yeah.
waffles.
I
we
haven't
had,
been there in a long time.
So I remember,
But yeah, I remember
there
going
was the good places that I remember were Renzo's, Ron's, Harborside, the Boathouse, and Tenuta's. Lacrosse, that's awesome. I remember University of
Yes.
Wisconsin lacrosse was awesome. That was a great part of it. Whitewater were too good. I mean, obviously Madison was like the upper one, but lacrosse and Parkside didn't really do much, but lacrosse and Whitewater were awesome party schools. They were tons of fun. We spent a lot of weekends up that way.
Oshkosh.
Oh, it's cold. It's cold.
Well, University of Oshkosh, like we didn't get that way much. We went to Whitewater a lot. We went to lacrosse a lot, and then we went to Stevens Point, University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. We spent a lot of time at Point
Did you ever go to River Falls?
because we had. So, what's that? No,
Did you go to
we
River
only
Falls?
went that way when. No, because we only went up really north. Our buddy Pat, his parents had a cabin in Whitewater, or I'm sorry, Tomahawk. So we would go up to Tomahawk that way, right? So
North.
we had, yeah. So Lacrosse is Oktoberfest is good. Point Beer had Stevens Point had the Point Beer Festival, which was awesome. That was where they would have at the festival every year. Stevens Point would have it was like a ticket, and you would write what flavor beer you wanted. So if somebody wanted bubble gum or pizza or loaded potato, whatever one, they would make the beer for that year, and it would come out. And I remember when I was in college, my buddy Matt was the one that picked bubble gum, and they made it for him.
That's
Blake
disgusting.
was awesome.
I don't.
It was actually really good. It tasted. It was very similar to like a cider beer, but imagine like blueberry cider. It was like blueberry bubble gum. It was actually really good. Yeah, they but then you had and now like Wisconsin like is like the Spotted Cow and the New Glarus and like all that kind of stuff was like. But when I was in school, we none of that. Like Point was the beer you got. And then Ice House was like huge, right? Blue Moon ice cream, I remember that one. Yeah, but like Ice House was big in Wisconsin. They didn't obviously know her,
Yams.
but we had but I remember getting Ice House was like the big one because it was like the highest alcohol content. It was pretty cheap. I actually remember going to a gas station. It was one of my first. I was a freshman in college, and we go to the gas station. It was like walking and seeing The Simpsons. It was a white can and it just said beer on it. Didn't know who made it. Didn't know it was just a 6-pack of white cans with the black lettering and beer. It was unbelievable. I was like, we got to get this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Wisconsin was awesome. I miss Wisconsin. It was
The
great.
people that I hung out with were from the res.
Okay.
So they drank Oldie and
Yeah.
MD Twanky Twanky.
Yeah.
Like they went hard. It
Yeah.
was horrible.
So a funny thing too about Wisconsin that I didn't know in Illinois that they had it, but it was very, very popular in Wisconsin was Tequila Rose.
Yes.
Everybody in Wisconsin drank Tequila Rose. I was like, what the hell is Tequila Rose? I had no idea what it was. It was a huge thing out there.
Maharosa.
I don't know why
Yeah.
Wisconsin loved Tequila Rose.
Because it's
Lady,
milk
what's up?
based.
Oh, be lucky you can drink milk.
Yeah, it's a cream based. So of course we're gonna like it because
Yeah.
cheese.
So
Yes, like strawberry milk.
one of my favorite drinking stories in Wisconsin was I was at a bar. It was called Peg and Loose. I don't know if it's still there anymore. I think they shut it down. It was a big college bar when I was in school. And I'm sitting at the bar and I'm underage. Obviously, they let anybody in as long as you were on the football team. You kind of went and drank for anything. So I'm at the bar and there were like a bunch of like it was either opening weekend of hunting season. They were all in camel and they were all whatever. And we were kind of in our football stuff and we were kind of, like athletic out, and they were sitting at one side. We were sitting at the other side. We started talking to them and they were like locals, right? They were 22 or 23-year-old kids. We were just in college. They were like, they lived in the area. They were hunting. They were duck hunting and pheasant hunting. Right. So we're sitting at the bar. So the one guy goes, well, can I buy you a drink? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. You pick. Right. And he's like, he calls the bartender. He's like, get these guys a redneck margarita. And I'm like, what the hell did I just get into? Like, what the hell is a redneck margarita, right? So the bartender weighs 4 Peps. He turns them upside down and puts them in the margarita salt, flips them back up and opens the tops. A redneck margarita is Pabst Blue Ribbon with salt on the rim.
Yuck.
We smashed these things. It was unbelievable. I probably had like 8 of them.
That's horrible.
That's all we were drinking the entire night was redneck margaritas. And all the bartender would do was take the can and he would literally turn it upside down and stick it in the margarita salt and then put it on the bar and open the tab. And that's how you drank it. When you drank, the salt would be on the rim. And that was the redneck margarita. And I'll never forget it. I still like, even sometimes like I'll just have one just to have one because it's like, it was awesome.
Sure. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, that was a big Wisconsin drink was the redneck margarita. I didn't know what they were before.
Oh,
I love it.
old fashions. Old fashions are a Wisconsin thing.
Yeah, so like the old fashions, Tom Collins, like, but like as far as like beer goes, like because obviously now everyone has like, you know, the microbrews is like a big thing. But when I was in school, none of them had that, right? There was
Right.
no Point was like the first microbrewery that like had flavors and different ales and stuff like that. You know, they had, and then Leinenkugels had the summer
Leinenkugels.
shandy. So like Leinie's was like a big Wisconsin thing. Like Leinenkugels was kind of, you know, they had their pumpkin spice beer, and then they had the summer shandy, and then they had and then I remember there was, I don't remember, I think it was Dickens, right? Dickens cider was Wisconsin, the cider beer, because I remember seeing those commercials, right?
I think so.
Because that was the funny thing, because when I was in school too,
Yes.
another big trend was all the colleges that had like the sexual names. So that was like a huge thing when I was in school, right? So Alabama, you buy the hat that says Cox for Gamecocks,
Yes.
and that was like a big thing. So it was Aeropastel was big, like um, there was another, it was like a surf shop type of brand. It was
Paxton.
Aeropastel. Yeah.
Paxton.
And so those are like the big ones. But then every kid was like a Dave Matthews, right? You wore the, you know, the khaki shorts that were ripped at the bottom, Fran. You wore your you know, roll shirt, your actually you wore on the hat. I remember there was a lot of them. Yeah, but that was the era of college. And I would keep out right. That was the thing. It was with that kind of stuff. Ellie, do you go live? You should hop on with us.
Aeropostale.
He's from Wisconsin
Yeah.
too, for cross.
Paxton. Yeah. Yeah. On the other side of the state.
Yeah.
We PacSun. I used to buy all my jeans there.
Yeah.
And then for the longest time, that was the only place you could buy
There was
Fox Racing. When that
Yeah.
was
Right. So you had between Fox and yeah, and what was the other one that was really big? It was Fox and was it
Pole was really big. That you got
that was real big.
J.C. Penney's had South Pole. Jenko. You remember Jenko?
Was big.
J.C. Penney's had South Pole. Jenko. You remember Jenko?
Yeah.
Jenko
The
G.
flared bottoms and flip thighs. The,
Yes.
the strap.
Yep. The ads for them they were just showing up on my Facebook newsfeed not that long ago. And I was like, there ain't no way you could pay me to wear pants like that. No
Yeah.
way. Nope.
Yeah, and that was the trend, but it's wearing them. I was crazy that like we did that stuff.
My husband always wore South Pole jeans. Like, we would go to JCPenney and buy every pair that they had in his size. And
Yeah.
all the t-shirts. And now to try to find a Fox shirt somewhere. Dunham's Zeke Cavaricci's. Holy
Yeah.
smokes. I remember those two.
Yeah, those are pretty. So I remember. So the Cavariccis with the IOU and like the Giorgio Brutinis were like the big thing. That was the outfit. The Giorgio Brutinis were the shoes that they were like the patent leather with the all the different wacky colors with the buckles on them.
Goodness.
And then you had the Cavariccis. But when I was when I was in college though, Dickies was really big. Like Dickies chinos were like huge. So you would wear like your Wrangler jeans, but everybody had a pair of Dickie chinos, which, you know, were either tan or brown or like those maroon color ones. That was kind of the big thing. The Agrabot, I remember those. Was Hypercolors the ones that you kind of blew into it and it would turn your shirt if you were in the sun? Remember that? It'd be like a purple shirt and then it would turn like tie-dye yellow in the sun and everybody would kind of blow into it like this and it would turn your whatever. Do you remember those? They were like a huge trend when
You know what else was really popular was surf style.
yeah. So at least in the Chicagoland area, we were we had the big one was it was IOU and the trends for us in Chicago, and I don't know why, and I think in Wisconsin it picked up too, were Zubas and Everlast. So Zubas were the real funky color pants, right? So they would be like orange and turquoise and like they'd have like different patterns on it. Then they started doing them for the NFL teams. So like it would be like the Minnesota was like purple and yellow and gray, and the Lions were like blue and gray and white. And the Zubas would match like the teams. But those are like the big things were the Zubas, and then the Everlast was like huge, where you wore like the sweatshirt with the cut off sleeves.
See, I had the butterfly pants.
Okay.
I was that girl. I did hurdles in them.
Yeah. So
I did not do well.
yeah, so I remember the Zubas were like super, super popular. And then outside of Zubas was Everlast. That was like the big thing. And then because you didn't have much for athletic wear, right? Like Russell was big back in the day, right? It was Nike and Adidas and stuff like that were like if you had money, right? You couldn't afford a normal, like most people were like wearing Champion stuff because you needed money to buy a $50 Nike shirt, but you go to Kmart and buy a $6 Champion shirt and it was just the same thing, right? Starter jackets were huge.
Yes.
The pullover starters.
I had a Dallas Cowboys one.
Charlotte Hornets.
I had the Dallas Cowboys. My very first jersey was a Emmitt Smith jersey. A starter jersey. And
Okay, it was a Peyton.
I had Emmitt Smith.
Was ours in Chicago.
Now the only two football jerseys I own are players that are no longer with the Bears. So whatever.
Urlacher. Urlacher was huge. A lot of people in Chicago had Urlacher. Everything in the 54.
I have a limited edition Urlacher jersey, and I bought it, and like 2 weeks later he retired, and I was so mad.
Yeah.
And then my mother-in-law bought me a Khalil Mack jersey, and then he left.
Okay, so famous Urlacher, that neon orange one that they wore. So it's like the bright orange with the letter, the real popular, hard to get one.
Okay. Yeah, I had mine is like a dark light gray.
Okay, and then the other one that's really hard to get is the white on white. When they call it the snowman. So when the nerds were white and the jerseys had the orange numbers with the blue dipping are super rare.
Yeah, I had my Urlacher jersey's like a dark gray with orange on it.
Okay.
And it was a limited edition.
That's cool. Obviously, you know.
It was limited edition, and I didn't take the tags off of it. It hung in my closet, and I was like, I'm not gonna wear this. I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah.
And then he retired, and I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And I was mad.
Right?
Well, I wear it now.
Everybody had but the big was March or everybody had Wisconsin loved that guy. Tight end for the Packers. He was like everywhere. And then obviously everybody had fire jerseys, but you know the Markham was selling jersey for them. I don't know. But yeah, just of Wisconsin. It's nice.
I I was a Packer fan one time, just once, only one time, and it was when they won the Super Bowl. It was like what, 97? They won the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
and I was a Packer fan for one day. I jumped on the bandwagon. I drove with my grandma to Lambeau. Um, and that was the one and only time you would catch me in Packer gear because
yeah.
I was a Cowboys
I
fan.
kind of had a
and then
soft
I was,
spot. Yeah, I had a soft spot for him in school because obviously we would watch the games. Obviously, I was a Bear fan, but the Packers were just kind of grew on you.
not me.
I don't know.
I've lived here my whole life, and you can't. I was screaming at my TV yesterday when they were playing the Lions, and I was rooting for the Lions. Like, I don't like them, and there's nothing anybody can say
Right.
that can make me like them. I'm
Yeah,
like, no.
and what's crazy is my buddy Rich is a huge Lions fan, and he's convincing me. He's like, you got to be a Lions fan. I'm like, the Bears suck. I just might have to. It's awful to watch the Bears. Like it hurts your eyes to watch that team.
It's been like, I don't think that I've consistently watched a Bears game since Lovey.
Yeah,
Loved Lovey.
yeah. That was a great. You know, even a little of the Dick Duran era when you still had those players, right? Because you know when Urlacher was still there, you still had what's his name, the guy that went to the Packers was there. He was pretty awesome. You still had a lot of those core guys after Levy went when Dick Duran came, but then slowly after that, all those players started leaving. They were all getting traded, and then that team fell apart, right? Because you know you had Mike Brown who was awesome in the secondary. I can't think of the guy's name, the other linebacker that was awesome with Urlacher. But
God. Other,
he
there was
got traded to
another.
the he got traded to the Patriots and then ended up winning a Super Bowl with them. And I can't think of his name. It's like right on the tip of my tongue.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of it either.
I almost want to just look it up just because it's crushing me.
I can see his face.
Yeah.
I can see it. There's no name attached.
Lance
It's
Briggs.
just like, yep. Oh, you know who else I was thinking of was Greg Olson.
Yeah, Greg Olson was the tight end. Charles Tillman was in the secondary. Mike Brown was in the secondary. That was awesome. They had a great defense.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, and I think back to the Cutler days when, you know, that man would fold. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they played against a lot of really, really good defense, but when that man's cage was rattled, that was it. They were done. Like, he get his helmet rocked one time and they were done.
Yeah. So it's funny because they basically said that Urlacher gave an interview the other day and somebody asked who was the toughest player you ever played with, and he said Jay Cutler.
You know, I never played competitive sports, but I can say that based upon watching my son get his cage rattled, even at a middle school level, that game is not just a physical game, it's a mental game too.
Sure.
And it takes a lot to get out there and know that every play could be your last. Like,
Yeah, it's tough.
you know, it's tough. But they could share their paychecks with me. I would be all right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point of making the NFL though, right? Like post college, like when I played and I graduated, I wasn't good enough for the NFL. Like I learned very quickly that dream was over, right? Like I had to do something else. But It's just the what ifs, right? Because even at that time, the league minimum was like 290,000, and as long as you played 3 seasons, you got the full NFL pension. So you were set for life. You got paid every year and got insurance, right? And I think now the NFL, the league minimum, I think is like almost 600,000. So like you're gonna make $500,000 for the rest of your life. You're set. And that's not including the guys that make $3 or $4 or $5 million a season for, when they sign a $30 million contract and they make $7,000 a year for 4 years, right? That's awesome. Cause that's, but when they retire, they're still getting the league minimum as their pension, right? So they're still getting $600,000 a year. And if they invested their money wisely, like Charles Tillman, Earl Locker, like those guys made wise investments. Like they are wealthy beyond their means because they didn't spend all their money on garbage. They invested it very smartly. And there's not a lot of players that do that. So like, kudos to those guys. But like, even like Favre, like he's just a genius when it comes to business. He's got money on top of money. He opened up restaurants and clothing and sponsorships. Like he set the trend for a lot of modern day quarterbacks. I mean, without Favre, you don't have Peyton Manning doing what he's doing. Favre was the one that found to only like he's and franchises all over the country. It's not in a river. So what do you got the rest of it?
I'm going to be going to bed now that all of my children have entered their slumber chambers.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Husband's been in bed since like 7:15 because he's like, it's dark out. It's time to go to sleep. I don't blame him. I said the same thing at 6 o'clock.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. It was fun catching up. It's been a minute.
Has been. I know. I haven't been live since, I don't know, July maybe. Like I was live one day on my lunch break and I got reported, and I haven't gone live since.
Okay. So I only go live like one weekend day when I'm doing after my podcast, whenever it loads up, I go live while it's loading, and then I do some editing while I'm live. And then I go live with my buddy Kelly. We talk about music. So we do the Pod Cult, which is a music podcast that we just kind of like talking about our favorite bands and stuff. Nights we only go live. I used to live like 5 nights a week. I didn't think too many. It was find it to be like at all.
No, I don't know how people are on like every night, all night long. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's a source of income.
Kudos to them, right? If they're making money, if people are giving them a couple $100 a night, right? And you're doing it for 5 nights a week and you're making $1,500 or $2,000 a week, like kudos to you, right? So I got your message about lagging, but I've noticed you are. I don't know, like.
See, and
both of us
I'm on cell service. I turned my internet off on my. Spectrum is lovely. So
okay,
I don't know what it is.
Wi-Fi and I have 4 bars, so.
See, and I have full service too, but I don't know what's happening. It says I have 5G right now because I turned my internet off because I thought, oh, maybe it was that. Nope, it was still happening. Your face was like stuck in a really weird pose, like you looked like you were having a stroke for a while there. So I was like, I hope he's okay.
Because on my screen, I never froze, and then on your screen, you froze bad. You were like pixelated for a little bit, and then it went out.
You were freezing.
So I don't know, but it never stopped for me. Like my. So I don't know.
Me either.
We'll just
I
go
don't know.
with it.
My phone's almost dead. It's fine.
All right. Well, you could hop off. I'm going to stay on for a little bit just to see who else is on and
All right.
kind of hang out from there. But we'll do it again.
All right. Sounds good.
Whenever you're ready, just let me know. We'll hop on.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Later. I'll catch you later.
Bye.
All right. What's up, guys? So that was it. I'm just hanging out now. If you're on, say hi. I'm just doing my thing right now. I'm going to share the show again. If any of you guys want to hop on with me, you're more than welcome to. If you want to join me, feel free, please, to hang out. I'm just kind of sharing the show to people that I see that are on right now. If you want to hop on with me, you're more than welcome to, guys. Just send me an invite, and I'd be more than happy to have you hop on if you want to join the screen with me or you want to be a part of the show. Me and Stephanie used to go live all the time together. We just kind of realized that we don't have, the time to do it anymore. So if you're on and you want to hop on with me, send me an invite. I'll let you hop on, share the screen with me, be my guest. It's fine for me. I just, like I said, Steph was on and I was like, why don't you come on live with me? And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, we haven't done it in a while. So it was good to catch up with her. But yeah, now I'm just kind of hanging out, doing my thing, guys. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on, to be quite honest with you, but, I'll hang out for a little bit, and see who's on. If you guys, like I said, if you want to hang out with me and you want to hop on with me, you're more than welcome to do that. So, I mean, if you want to join me, feel free. We can hang out together, and do that. I was trying to get more people on with Steph. I don't know what happened, but I was really trying to get other people on that were interested in coming on. So, if you do, feel free. Thank you guys for the love and support. One Fun Guy podcast over on YouTube, guys. I pin my stuff everywhere. So if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would immensely appreciate it, guys. It goes a long way for me. I'm trying to grow my channel. We podcast and a guest, and then I also do a weekly podcast with Kelly. We do the pod called. He's awesome. We talk about hard rock and heavy metal and music, and we usually kind of pick a topic, and then we go into these hardcore tangents, but we always have fun doing it. So if you want to be a part of that, join us. We'll be live 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for the pod call. Follow me. I'll follow you back. I try to make it as fun and as enjoyable for everybody we can. We kind of talk about some, kind of cool stuff. If I tend to go on tangents a lot, but they're always fun tangents. So if you guys, like what you see, follow me. I'll follow you back. All the love and support, guys, much appreciated. For all those who like the show, I know Mel liked a bunch. I know Ellie was on for a little bit. Pinky liked the show a lot. So, if you guys are on and you're around, feel free to hop on. I like I said, I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on now. It'll be a little bit, like I'll hang out for a little bit, but it's not, much longer. And from there, we just kind of like having fun, right? So if you're on, say hi. If you want to join me real quick and you want to hop on and you have something to say, that'd be awesome. Everything I do, guys, will go to the internet, right? So as soon as I'm done with this live, I will post it to YouTube and it will live in infamy there. So all your comments and everybody who hopped on would your stuff isn't going unnoticed. So I'm going to see who else is on. If anybody else wants to hop on with me, they can. I don't know who else is live right now, but I'll see if anybody else wants to pop on. If they, are welcome to, they can. If you guys want to join me, feel free to shoot me an invite. I'm trying to share now to see if anybody else is on. I don't know if they are or not, but we'll see. Is on. I don't know if they are or not, but we'll see. Talk to her in a minute. Talk to her in a minute. Just give me a second, guys. Trying to see who's on here, if anybody's on. I don't know. We'll see. We'll play around with it. I know it's a school night. I know a lot of people are busy. I just wanted to come on and say hi just because I haven't been on in a while, and I just wanted to I know it's a school night. I know a lot of people are busy. I just wanted to come on and say hi just because I haven't been on in a while, and I just wanted to get back my algorithm. So these videos I make on TikTok, I post them to YouTube. But other than that, guys, I'm One Fun Guy Podcast. I think I'm just going to hop off.